Welcome to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame 2021 induction ceremony. I'm Dean Richards from the WGN TV Morning News. The Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame is both a historic event and an exhibit. Through the Hall of Fame, residents of Chicago and the world are made aware of the contributions of Chicago's LGBT community and the community's efforts to eradicate homophobic bias and discrimination. With the support of the City of Chicago, its Commission on Human Relations Advisory Council on Gay and Lesbian Issues established the Chicago Gay and Lesbian Hall of Fame. The inaugural induction ceremony took place during Pride Week at City Hall, hosted by then Mayor Richard M. Daley. This was the first event of its kind in the country. After the Advisory Council's dissolution, the name of the organization was changed to Friends of the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame to be inclusive to all of the individuals who combine to make up the diverse community. It continues now as a not-for-profit group, recognizing outstanding contributions of LGBT individuals, businesses, organizations, and allies. To be inducted to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame, an inductee must have either made a single far-reaching contribution or significant long-term contribution to the quality of life for Chicago's LGBT community or the city of Chicago at large. Nominations of individuals and organizations are made by the public, and a slate of inductees is selected by a panel of former recipients of the award in the individual category. Since its inception in 1991, a large portion of the Hall of Fame's time is devoted to being the custodian of records for the inductees that it's honored. The main goal of the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame is to ensure that the achievements of the community's leaders are not lost or forgotten. The Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame is pleased to announce the 2021 inductees.
Jeannie Clemens. The gentle yet radical Jeannie Clemens was known worldwide as one of the earliest openly queer recording artists and was an important part of Chicago's folk music scene. Born in 1936 in Evergreen Park, she was raised in the southern suburbs, where she joined the school choir and learned guitar to entertain her patients. Clemens adopted the banjo, later teaching guitar and banjo at Chicago's Old Town School of Folk Music. She played at Chicago folk clubs such as the Earl of Old Town, Poor Richards, and Mother Blues, where she once opened for a very young Bob Dylan. She became a hit early at women's music festivals with her vocal support for the feminist movement. She cemented her reputation as a serious folk singer with an appearance on Dunwich Label's 1977 compilation, Gathering at the Earl of Old Town. Jeannie established her own recording label, Open Door Records, and her 1980s compilation, Gay and Straight Together, Volume 1, released on the label, was groundbreaking, as it openly addressed LGBT issues. Clemens' 1981 solo LP, Wild Women Don't Get the Blues, was similarly empowering, and its title track by Ida Cox has been a de facto feminist anthem for many years. In 1988, she relocated to Hawaii, and Tropical Life formed the basis for her final LP, the self-released Underneath Hawaiian Skies. She died in 2003 at age 66 from injuries sustained in a car crash in Maui. For her groundbreaking work, we are pleased to posthumously honor Jeannie Clemens with induction into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Lisa Isadora Cruz was born in Puerto Rico in 1958. She faced harsh situations on the island, including police brutality for being transgender, which caused her to not only leave her home, but to also cut short her high school education. She eventually made her way to New York City, where she performed drag under the stage name Ginger Valdez. For more than 15 years, she was a well-known drag artist. In 1985, Lisa was diagnosed as HIV positive. Lisa's search for better opportunities brought her to Chicago, where she had resided since 1991. Her migration to this city as a transgender woman was challenging, and in the process of adjusting to her new and tumultuous circumstances, she was charged with and imprisoned for theft. It was because of her experience with incarceration that Lisa resolved to ensure that others did not go through the struggle she endured. She began her work at Minority Outreach Intervention Project and soon became its first Latina transgender outreach worker. Through her work with this program, Lisa dedicated herself to make sure that racially and economically marginalized communities had a voice and access to health services, especially in the fight against HIV and AIDS. During the 90s, Lisa began organizing and participating in much-needed educational workshops and summits that centered on the lives of transgender people. In addition, Lisa worked to become a certified intervention facilitator, a survivor of hepatitis C, drug abuse, HIV, homelessness, and suicide attempts. Lisa has become a voice of wisdom for generations. She's also become a major community advocate in defending the rights of the transgender community. For her inspirational work, we're happy to welcome Lisa Isadora Cruz to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Thomas Hunt, also known as Ms. Ruffenstuff, is originally from New York and moved to Chicago in 1989. He started working as a nightclub promoter and throwing loft parties. He became a manager at a club called Clubhouse in the West Loop area where they had drag shows. One night, the host did not show up, and Thomas Hunt stepped in with lipstick and a wig. He was a big hit. People wanted him to come back, and Ms. Ruffenstuff was born. He is called Chicago's Beauty Queen and has been entertaining in Chicago for over 20 years. He coordinates shows and is a well-respected dressmaker. He has performed at festivals and parades and in bars, nightclubs including Hydrate, Club Escape, and Lips. Hunt has a strong commitment to the physical safety of our LGBTQ community. He has a 4th-degree black belt in martial arts. He was one of the original Pink Angels. Many years ago, when there was an upsurge of violence on Halsted Street, the Pink Angels and Thomas Hunt were there to help by patrolling the streets around various bar locations at night. Hunt was also instrumental in organizing numerous events on the south and north sides for HIV and AIDS, and has been instrumental in raising money for many causes in the community. For his outstanding and ongoing work, we are pleased to welcome Thomas Hunt to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Wayne Johnson has worn many hats over the years, defining himself as a special event jockey, habitat craftsman, metro chef, and urban explorer. Wayne spent 20 years at Leo Burnett Advertising Agency, ending his tenure as VP of Development for the Creative Department. During his tenure there, Wayne was also working double duty, doing advertising, marketing, and general operations for Roscoe's after hours and on weekends. For 3 years during that period, he also served as assistant general manager. He continues to work with Roscoe's on special graphic design projects. As the winner of the Today Show's National Domestic Diva Contest and a 10-year contributor for NBC5 Chicago, Wayne has put his very talents to good use. His weekly Wayne's Weekend segments on NBC5 covered everything from cooking and party planning to home decor, crafts, and new things happening in the city. Wayne has also appeared on Good Morning America and Windy City Live. He also maintains a YouTube channel and website featuring his recipes, projects, and travels, and has been a docent for the Chicago Architecture Center and its nationally recognized river cruises. Additionally, Wayne has operated his graphic and web design businesses for over 20 years. When he can find the time, he designs and builds furniture, including a free sidewalk library in his uptown neighborhood, and a fetch stick version for dogs that was featured in People magazine. For his remarkable contributions to the city of Chicago, we're happy to welcome Wayne Johnson to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Otis Mack, also known as Chicago's heavy diva, does not take entertainment lightly. Comedian, promoter, host, and MC extraordinaire, He is CEO and founder of Heavy Diva Productions and creator of the Chicago Warriors. He started his promotion company in 1996 in the hopes of reaching LGBT youth through fun and entertainment. Mac eventually took over as host and promoter for the Monday Night Drag Talent Show at the Clubhouse for more than a decade. Mac cites Jim Flint of the Baton Show Lounge as one of his idols. This led Mac to leading his own group of entertainers, the Chicago Warriors. Mac balances a dual career as a youth and family support specialist for Children's Home and Aid, National Youth Advocate Program, and DCFS. As a case aide, Otis works closely with children and placing them in understanding homes with proper foster parents. He is an openly gay professional and foster parent. His home has been a safe haven for hundreds of LGBTQ youth throughout the years. Youth who have been abandoned because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Otis Mack makes it a point to organize free fundraisers and shows to support organizations whose mission centers on HIV/AIDS outreach, prevention, and care. He continues efforts in supporting the African American LGBT community in the areas of entertainment, media, civil rights, business, and art, and currently can be found participating in online activism. Mac is a radio personality on 106.9 FM and the host of a weekly blog called Cocktails and Conversations. For his incomparable work, we are honored to welcome Otis Mack to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Dr. Claudia Mosier has been a member of Chicago's LGBT community for the last 43 years. Her advocacy began back in college. In the early 1970s, she worked at a lesbian-gay radio show and the Antioch Gay and Lesbian Center. Claudia volunteered on the suicide hotline. She volunteered with the Lesbian Community Center and participated in Take Back the Night marches and volunteered at Mountain Moving Coffee House. She protested the discrimination against lesbians of color at various lesbian bars. She also started advertising herself as a lesbian therapist and helped to open the first shelter for battered women and their children in Chicago. In the early years of the AIDS crisis, she provided free therapy for HIV-positive people and their families of choice. Mosier has worked with the transgender community. She and a gay male colleague started the first doctoral level college psychology class on LGBT competent care in Illinois. Claudia helped in opening the Pride Institute in Chicago in the 1990s and was a psychologist with the Center on Halsted from 2012 to 2015. She partnered with Northwestern University to create the first APA-accredited LGBT doctoral internship program and was the first LGBT prescribing psychologist in Chicago. In many different settings, from the early 1970s to current times, she has continued to advocate for the LGBTQ+ community. For that reason, we're proud to welcome Claudia Mosier to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Ralphie Rosario. DJ, music producer, and Grammy nominee, Ralphie Rosario began his career in 1981 as a part of the Hot Mix 5 on WBMX. As the youngest member of the group, he was still in high school. The Hot Mix 5 went on to become one of the leading forces in early Chicago house music. Eventually, Ralphie expanded into music production and remixing. His first release in 1987 was a collaboration titled You Used to Hold Me. It has become a timeless dance floor classic. As a music producer and remixer, he was involved in recording music for all 6 seasons of HBO's Sex and the City. He still works his production and remix magic for such mega recording artists as Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande, Katy Perry, Mariah Carey, Madonna, Kelly Clarkson, and Beyonce. In 2012, he was nominated for a Grammy Award for remixing Rihanna's hit Only Girl with his longtime production partner, Abel Aguilera. In 2019, he was given the honor of his own Chicago street sign on Cornelia and Halsted, labeled Ralphie the Raz Rosario Boulevard. For his impressive body of work, we are excited to honor Ralphie Rosario with induction into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Betty Lark Ross was a high school teacher of art, photography, and filmmaking at the Latin School of Chicago for nearly 40 years. In addition, she was a founding member and later co-chair for the Chicago chapter of GLSEN, Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network. Putting her job at risk, she became one of the first teachers in Chicago to come out as an openly lesbian educator. Among her many achievements is that she supported LGBT youth through GLSEN Youth Leadership Summits, scholarship programs, and its Midwest Conference on Ending Homophobia in Schools, an event that is widely credited with kickstarting the establishment of gay-straight alliances in schools throughout the Midwest. On the GLSEN National Board, she participated in the opening ceremonies and display of the NAMES Project in Washington, D.C. Ross led the organization of the first group of teachers in Chicago's Pride Parade and helped fund and distribute the video It's Elementary, talking about gay issues in school. Outside of her GLSEN leadership work, Betty mentored LGBT students for 25 years as an advisor to Latin School's Gay Straight Alliance. Her school became the first to collaborate with Chicago's About Face Theater and the first Chicago school to showcase the Legacy Wall. Her photography has documented our vibrant community life. Betty and her spouse, Becky Flory, are renowned for their creative contributions to the Halsted Street Halloween Parade and Chicago's Cows on Parade and Sweet Home Chicago Public Art exhibitions. For her exemplary work and contributions, we're happy to welcome Betty Lark Ross to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Kirk Williamson has tirelessly devoted the last 2 decades to informing and entertaining Chicago's LGBT community through his work in the local queer press. He started in 2000, working for Gab magazine. In 2001, he moved on to Windy City Times, working his way up to art director. His skilled eye is responsible for the look of many issues of both Windy City Times and its sister publication, Night Spots, for which he has served as managing editor for 11 years. At Night Spots, he committed himself to covering the broad spectrum of LGBT nightlife, paying attention to those locations, individuals, and events underrepresented in other outlets. Kirk's work included writing a popular events column, documenting the nightlife community with thousands of photos, laboring over creative layouts and years of Pride issues, helping to produce books on local and national LGBT history on subjects ranging from Chuck Winslow to Vernita Gray, Jim Flint, and Barack Obama, and helping to highlight the achievements of Chicago's LGBT community. Kirk is a perfect example of an individual with decades of work lifting important queer institutions. It is work that is often not seen and often not recognized, but it is work that is the backbone of our community. Starting his work in his 20s, Kirk embedded himself in the LGBT community to make sure diverse voices were represented. And now he serves as production manager at the Chicago Reader. In his new role, Kirk works to make sure that LGBTQ people are not just represented and shaping the narrative within our community, but now he makes sure that a legacy media outlet is also inclusive. For his committed and thoughtful work, we are honored to welcome Kirk Williamson to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Of course, it's not just individual contributions and achievements that help build the community. It's also the contributions of businesses and organizations. This year, 2 worthy organizations are honored.
Chicago Urban Pride was founded in 1991 and is a regionally anticipated signature event that is projected to draw 5,000 plus attendees for its year-long agenda of social, educational, and cultural programs for adults, youth, families, and allies. More than 20 years later, Chicago Urban Pride has evolved with the city's changing landscape and has grown into a regionally anticipated event, drawing thousands of people to Chicago's Brownsville, Hyde Park, and Jackson Park neighborhoods. It advocates and promotes safe spaces and programming for Chicago's African American LGBT community. Chicago Urban Pride produces the LGBT Pride Picnic on the south side of Chicago on Pride Day annually. Urban Pride Chicago offers a unique opportunity to view the ways Chicago's African American LGBT community is flourishing concurrently with the city's cultural and economic boom. For its continuing work, we're happy to welcome Chicago Urban Pride to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Pride Chicago. The first Chicago Gay Rights March was held on Saturday, June 27, 1970, and it was organized by the Chicago Gay Liberation Organization and was the first event to be held to recognize the first anniversary of the Stonewall Rebellion the year before. In its second year, the event became a parade under the auspices of the Chicago Gay Alliance. When those two organizations dissolved, Rich Pfeiffer formed Pride Chicago to take over the management and planning of the annual parade. Pride Chicago, headed up by Rich Pfeiffer and Tim Fry, have been the glue that held the event together. Over the decades, the number of registered entries, participants, and spectators has steadily increased. It is estimated that the crowd attending and marching in the parade has remained at or over 1 million people since 2015. Pride Chicago has always strived to keep the occasion diverse and inclusive. The organization has hosted numerous grand marshals from the world of sports, music, film, and television, including Orlando Cruz, Leah Delaria, Alexandra Billings, Ty Herndon, and Greg Louganis, and many, many others. Pride Chicago has ushered the Chicago LGBT Pride Parade through 6 decades. Rich Pfeiffer passed away in 2019, and Tim Fry is continuing the tradition. Although the parade had to be postponed in 2020 and 2021 due to the pandemic, plans are already underway for June of 2022. For an unprecedented history of work, we are honored to welcome Pride Chicago to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
The community would not have made its strides without the support of allies. We honor those allies with the Friend of the Community Award. This year, we're proud to posthumously welcome one such individual to the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Lana Hostetler. It is hard to imagine a more devoted friend of the community than the late Lana Hostetler. An ally in the early days of Illinois' and Chicago's second wave of LGBT civil rights work, she co-founded, along with Kit Duffy, John Henry Damsky, Rick Garcia, and Art Johnson, the Illinois Federation for Human Rights, which later became Equality Illinois in 1991. Her contributions to the community were immense and served as a reminder that our history is replete with allies who marched alongside us. Hostetler was the Illinois Federation for Human Rights chief lobbyist and political strategist for much of its first decade and was instrumental in pushing legislation supportive of LGBT rights. She taught the co-founders of the group how to lobby, and she led the work in Springfield, from overall strategy to ongoing week-to-week work. Tragically, Lana died in a house fire in 1999. Not only did she not live to see the fruits of much of her labor, all records and photographs of her work were destroyed. Through her lobbying, savviness, and her relentless commitment to human LGBT justice, Lana laid the foundation for the strong civil rights advocacy efforts Equality Illinois would build on for decades following her death. The Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame is proud to honor her legacy and welcome Lana Hostetler as a friend of the community.
This year's inductees join a diverse and impressive list of individuals, businesses, and organizations, all of which have contributed to the lives of Chicagoans and its equally diverse LGBT community. As the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame celebrates 31 years since its creation, please join me as we honor past inductees of the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. With the global health crisis, corporate donations are increasingly difficult to get. It's more important than ever that individuals step up to help support the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. You can show your support by donating right now. Please go to the donation page on their website or use the QR code that follows. I'm Dean Richards from WGN. Thank you very much for watching.